This is the 18th season of Bass Talk Live. With your host, Matt Pangraff. BTL is brought to you by Lawrence, Bass Cat Boats, APCO, Strike King Lures, Sunline, Big Bite Baits, Spro, X-Zone Lures, Gamakatsu, The Bass Tank, Denali Rods, and Pro Guide Batteries.
PTL, coming at you!
Good morning and welcome to BTL, Bass Talk Live, where we're going to talk about bass fishing. Got an interesting show lined up for today. You know, we kind of kicked the week off with, I always still want to call him an outdoor writer, but then we determined if you listen to the show with Pete Robbins, I guess he is an outdoor writer, but a fishing writer, a writer extraordinary, a guy who's been in the industry for a long time, and Pete Robbins told some good stories about some of his experiences with the professional anglers, kind of how he got into the game and where he sees the sport going and the players that are in it. And we're going to kind of continue that theme today with Dave Rush. Dave has been in the professional bass fishing industry for well over a decade now, and actually got his start in it through Mark Jeffries and the Bass Zone back when Harold Allen actually retired from doing Wide Open, the segment, and Dave jumped on, and then Dave and I traveled on the Elite Series and did coverage for the College Bass Zone and Bass Zone and a number of other different companies for 7 or 8 years, went to every single Elite Series event. So I wanted to get Dave on. I know we are several weeks now removed from the Classic, but he is from South Carolina, has spent a lot of time on Hartwell. Wanted to get his thoughts on that. And then also just a couple weeks ago with the Elite Series on Santee Cooper that Drew Cook won, he was a media observer / marshal. I believe he was just a marshal, signed up as a marshal to marshal that event, and got to go out with some good guys, including Drew Benton, who, if you listen to the Drew Cook episode from last week, him and Drew Benton kind of worked together, bounce ideas off of each other, bed fishing. So we'll get Dave's thoughts on that heading in. He is at his house in South Carolina, so I will bring none other than Dave Rush in. Dave, how's it going, man?
What's going on, Matt? Good to see you.
Yeah, we pretty much talk every day on the phone, so, I mean, this should be no problem. We talk for 30, 45 minutes usually about what's going on in the industry. We kind of started out doing the same thing, the coverage of the Bassmaster Elite Series, at the time the FLW Tour, and then kind of branched off into different things, I guess, as we matured in the industry. Is that a thing? Is that matured in the industry?
Accurate way to describe it.
See, I don't know anything else as far as, like, you know, corporate world, like 9 to 5, because I've done this since I was 23 years old. But you've got like an interesting background in history. I know you your family owned a small company that you helped run. They also did a marine dealership back in the day, and then you were also like a highly sought after DJ in the Charleston, South Carolina area. All this before you got into the bass fishing game?
Yeah, man. So, I mean, all of that definitely accurate. Was always juggling kind of a bunch of different things, and the DJ thing kind of became a primary gig for me. Nightclubs, bars, things like that in the Charleston area evolved into really doing mostly weddings, because Charleston was a huge destination wedding city. People spend a lot of money to get married in Charleston. So, you know, I was able to do pretty well with that for quite a while. But at the same time, always kind of kept my foot in the fishing, the fishing realm. You know, fished a lot of tournaments. Like you said, my parents owned a marine dealership, so was exposed to that stuff at a really young age. And you know, was fortunate enough to meet you and Mark at a Elite Series event at Clarks Hill. I think it was the first, I think it's 2006 maybe, or around in there,
Yeah,
the first year.
It was later than that because I wasn't working with Mark in 2006. It would have been the one that Crochet finished. It was Williamson won it, right?
Crochet's rookie year, so a little bit later than
2009, 2010?
Around in that area, yeah. Around in there. And was able to kind of, Mark was funny. Mark was kind of looking, his first stage of retirement, which was to get off the road. So he was looking to do that, and just kind of got a call out of the blue after I helped you guys do some coverage at Clarks Hill. And like, hey man,
that's like a sanitized version, dude. You can tell the actual version. So like we're at the tournament. From what I remember, basically Mark like used you for free at the entire event to provide coverage for Bass Zone. It's kind of how it went.
Well, another situation. I think I was. I think it was. I used to fish every time it would come to Clarks Hill and they had co-anglers. I would fish as a co-angler. So my apologies to any pros that I probably casted their schooling fish or casted over the top of their head.
You got to tell the Brian Snowden story, Dave.
Probably not.
You got to tell the Brian Snowden story. Dave doesn't want to tell this story, dude. This is not like an interview form. Like we got to tell the good stories here. Brian Snowden recently, he retired from the Bassmaster Elite Series, doing a lot of work with the Bass Pro Shops now, doing a lot of guiding, a lot of seminars, a lot of stuff on electronics, still very active, kind of getting in the bait game a little bit. And probably, well, I'm not going to say probably, he's one of the nicest guys out there. One of the nicest guys on the tour. I've actually been to his house, did some work with him. And Dave has a bone to pick with Brian Snowden. You claim that back when they had co-anglers, that he like, okay, if he gave if there's 100% effort to land a fish and 0%, you claim that he gave less than 50% effort to help you land a fish.
I would say around the 50% effort, which it's not his fish to land. Let's kind of go back on the story a little bit.
Okay, tell the story how you want the story to be told. So co-angler, you pay your entry fee. They're fishing on the Elite Series. You draw Brian Snowden.
Yep, co-angler Elite Series. Most of the tournaments that would come to Clarks Hill were, if you guys remember following any of that stuff, were during the herring spawn. So if you're not familiar with the herring spawn, it's basically, chaos everywhere, fish breaking, big topwaters, long casts, so on and so forth. I don't remember exactly. I think it was an underspin. I think we were around some schooling fish. Brian was catching a few. I was catching a few. I want to say you could even weigh in 5 at that time as a co-angler. I think it was kind of 5 and 5. So, wow. it was getting towards, it was one of those years where I think it was the year before they got rid of co-anglers. So obviously there had been some talk of doing away with the co-anglers. A lot of those guys deal with co-anglers in the opens. They've dealt with co-anglers their entire career, pro on pro. I mean, they've dealt with it all. So, we're around some fish. I think I'm doing pretty well in the tournament. It's not the final day, but I think I had a really good first day.
Were you wearing a jersey?
No, I was not a jersey guy.
Okay.
Definitely not a jersey guy at that point. So hooked up on a fish, and Brian's super nice guy, and he's kind of coaching through the process from what I remember. Like, oh man, you're doing a great job. This is like a 4 to 5 pound fish. This is
big fish.
A big fish for Clark. I mean, Clark still's got some big fish, but a big fish, herring spawn fish, makes a big difference to a co-angler's bag, obviously, right? So, he's coach. Oh man, you're doing good. Just keep fighting it. Blah blah blah. So we kind of get to that point where it's like, hey, do you want me to grab it? Because there's no nets. Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, man, yeah, that's cool. Just grab it. So we're fighting the fish. Well, Brian does, the pro move, sits down in the driver's seat, goes like that, and he's like, all right, pull it up, and it's like, in my mind, a little bit of short arm. And of course,
like he wasn't like fully invested in the scoop for you.
Wasn't fully invested in the scoop. And of course, at that particular moment, the fish, just turns and bait gone, bait out, and there goes my chance at whatever boat they were giving away that point.
It was a boat.
Yeah, still, that's when they give away boats.
Would you have won the boat had Snowden scooped and scored with that 5 to
I
6
mean,
pounder?
in my mind, I mean,
No,
we're still
in
talking about
reality, would that
still
have put
talking
you?
about
I mean,
today.
would you have been right there to win the boat?
Yeah, it would have been right there.
So in your mind, Brian Snowden owes you a boat?
We're not going to go that far. We're not going to go that far. Brian Snowden does not owe me a boat. Mr. Snowden.
What'd you say?
I mean, what do you say? I mean, he's just like, oh man. And I think what really got me was he's like, oh man, you were doing great right there till the end.
Oh, so then he put it back on you.
Which it was on me. It's my fish.
I know.
You know,
there's so many of those stories from back in the day, though. And like I said, not throwing Brian under the bus there. I think it's hilarious because I've heard you tell that story before. And I'm always like, well, yeah, if I'm in that position too in a tournament, I'm like, okay, good. There's still a 5-pounder swimming around down there. I might be able to come back in an hour or two and stick that sucker.
He might have caught it the next day.
Yeah, because it was day 2.
Yeah, I think it was day 2.
Day 2. Was that the same one you drew Rick Morris who caught schooling fish on a crawdad crankbait?
It may have been. That's just one of those other things where you think, these guys are paying hundreds of dollars for custom painted herring baits and whatever, and we roll in the spot and these fish come up schooling and I'm throwing top waters and flukes and all the normal Clarks Hill stuff, and Rick's like, he just like takes his time, pulls out a probably like an old DD20 or something like that, crawdad color out of the box, and proceeds to catch them. Herring fish. Schooling.
So after Brian Snowden ended your professional co-angling career,
and it's done. GoPro days done.
we did that for like 4 or 5 years, and I just kind of want to get a roundabout so you understand like where this is coming from. And then you started kind of branching out once we stopped going to all the Elite Series, which I believe was after the 2017 or 2018 season. You kind of started branching out and had some opportunities to do some freelance work. Obviously, in this industry, you have a lot of people who either they work for a specific company and they're like a rep for that company, and that's kind of what they do, like a Pure Fishing or a Pradco. And if they're on location, they kind of provide support for them. But you also have a lot of independent contractors. It's what I am. It's what Dave is, and you get picked up. So he says, he's out there on tour, we need some photos for this, some videos for this, some content for this. You can do a little contract with them, and then it saves everybody a lot of money. That way one company doesn't have to pay a guy a ton of money for all of flights and all of gas and all of the services rendered. It kind of spreads it out. It also makes it really hard to make a living because you kind of hunt and peck, and you have a bunch of people who are willing to do a bunch of stuff. But you in 18, 19 ended up getting started doing some stuff with Outdoor Brands team that represents a lot of companies, and then that kind of led to you just doing more and more in the kind of writing and photography and content creation for a number of different brands.
Yeah, so if anybody kind of knows what you and I did, we were kind of jack of all trades. You wrote, you did video, you took pictures, kind of whatever it took to get the job done when we were on location for Elite Series events. Once we decided to stop traveling to every event, I was kind of at a crossroads. You guys decided, hey, we're going to do more focus on Bass Talk Live.
I was sick of it, dude. Like I was at that point I had done it every single Elite Series since I was 23 years old. My fishing was picking up a little bit, and not that I didn't think it was worthwhile or that it wasn't incredibly valuable, but man, there were, when it started, there were 12 weeks out of the year that were tournaments. Then you throw in a classic, you throw in 5 weeks for FLW, you throw in 4 media events, and then you stay on the road if they're not back to back, but there's only 4 or 5 days in between. You stay on the road, film content, and I looked at my calendar for like 3 or 4 years, and I was gone like over 200 days a year, and you were the same way for 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, I was gone, and not only was I gone, but in those days I was still really having to make a living doing the DJ gig. So I would have to, plan out and book weddings and events on the weekends and weekdays for that matter that you and I weren't on the road. So it was kind of that deal. Like you'd be gone all week in an Elite Series event, turn around, get home, do the DJ gig, turn around, go back to Elite Series. And yeah, man, I mean, you and I both, I mean, we discussed this forever. It's like, as great of a gig as it was, as awesome as it was to be around all those guys, and people would kill for the opportunity to do that. I mean, it turns into a job like everything else. I mean, I'm sure there's people that go to their 9 to 5 that are totally sick of it, tired of going into office. Whatever you do for a living, that tends to happen to most people, and I think it definitely happened to you and I. It's not all glitz and glamour, and
It's
being
good
on the
Groundhog
road.
Day.
Yeah, it's Groundhog Day, and I mean, you're out there to do a job. You're out there to promote and help those guys promote themselves and tell the stories from events. But I mean, you're also out there when the weather sucks. You're also, making long drives. You're also staying in, subpar accommodations. You're also dealing with just random stuff that happens on the road, and stuff that happens at home when you're on the road and can't get back to take care of it. I mean, life happens while you're gone. So
yeah, and not to say, I mean, it's Groundhog Day, but it's Groundhog Day doing around what has been my true passion since I was 4 years old, and what I would never, it's great. I would do it again in a heartbeat, but I think we both kind of got to the point where, like, man, we need to kind of like expand this stuff. Like, you can't just keep doing the same thing over and over again.
Man. And it's like, I always equated it to when I first started DJing. I had a kind of a mentor, a guy that helped me get gigs, and he would call and say, hey, I can give you X amount of money to do it. It'd be this small little amount of money, but it'd always be like, hey, get your name out there.
Yeah,
get your name out there. And it's like, it was the same thing. It's like Jeffrey used to always say, hey, you're paying dues, man. Skin in the game. Paying dues.
Yeah. It's all about being there. That was the slogan.
It's all about being there. It'll pay off. It'll pay off. And he was right. I mean, eventually it did pay off. But, to kind of further that a little bit, you guys went your way with the podcast, and I'm in South Carolina, so I'm kind of at a crossroads of like, well, I can't really be involved on a daily basis on the podcast. It's a 2-man team. You guys are literally in studio together. I kind of had to make a decision. Fortunately for me, I had worked, we had traveled and roomed and done a lot of work with Dean Rojas over the years. Dean was, Dean's sponsorship group consisted of a lot of brands that were managed per se by a company called Outdoor Brand Team. I want to say, probably 2015, 16, around in there. Dean suggested to them that they bring me to one of their writers' conferences, which is kind of a media event. You hear guys talk about media events. It's where a lot of stuff gets done, stories, photos, videos, stuff, new products, whatnot. And it was in Eufaula, at Lake Eufaula, Alabama. And that's the first time I got to meet that group of guys. The guys that, all of the representatives were there from Spro, Gambagatsu, Big Bite Baits, a couple other companies at the time, Denali Rods, and was invited there to take photos. And that was kind of my first kind of time getting my feet wet and something like that. And they were really happy with, the photos, stuff I provided. And it kind of just snowballed from there. They kept asking me to do more work. And, I kind of created a bridge between that group of companies and Fast Talk Live, which, you guys are actually, supported by a lot of those companies now, and do the same for them, and you and your personal fishing career as well. So that's kind of how all that came to be. And when we were kind of done with the on the road bass hunt stuff, I got an opportunity to become content director for that Outdoor Brand Team rep group, and that's kind of how that all came about.
What was your degree? And you went to the College of Charleston, right?
Yeah, went to college at Charleston. Same as you, 4-year degree in communication.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that we had the same degree.
Yeah,
Huh. So now you do that. You do that full time now.
yeah,
You
full
still
time.
you DJ occasionally, don't you? Did you
Nope.
feel like you kind of got the same way at DJing that you did like covering the Elite Series? Like you loved it, it was great, but like you just were like ready to still be around and in that scene, but not setting up the turntables every night.
Yeah, so kind of what happened with the DJ stuff. I was making a pretty good living DJing, but the only way you could really make a decent living with a DJ gig in Charleston was weddings. And for any of you guys that have gone to weddings, yeah, it's a good time, but it's another Groundhog Day situation. You're kind of pigeonholed into playing the same music, kind of stunts your creativity, so to speak, as a DJ. You know, I I really got tired of it. It was just
You probably have some good. I know you have some good wedding stories though.
I always
I haven't even
getting
heard
weird
all of them.
stuff.
They
But
spend
yeah,
an obscene amount of money to have those weddings and then just get
yeah, I got
blackout
tired of it.
drunk.
I just really got, and that was part of it too, man. Just kind of having to. I mean, you spend years dealing with drunk people, shouting out song requests. I mean, it's just like enough's enough, right? And it actually all worked out at the same time. I had a goal to kind of taper away from that. And the way I was doing it was I was looking at it like, hey, the more income I can add from fishing related business that can cause me to not have to DJ, if I can make the same
Mm-hmm.
amount of money doing the fishing thing, then I'm fine with doing that. It was a quality of life thing for me. I wasn't looking at it like, hey, I can make a bunch more money in the fishing business and have this DJ money and just make a bunch more money, period. That was never the goal. And it actually worked out perfectly because, unfortunately, when COVID came, that kind of killed the whole wedding industry, nightclubs, entertainment, all of that. So a lot of my friends that were still in it at the time, really suffered for a couple of years. It's coming back now, but now I don't do anything. I don't book any more events. I mean, if somebody I knew or something, or if it was a really good opportunity, I'd probably, do it a little bit. But, frankly, I don't miss it.
Yeah, full time in the industry then now.
Yeah, full time in the industry, man. My daily routine consists of social media management for a lot of brands, content creation, whether it's, written stuff, photography, facilitating, media strategies and buys and whatnot. So yeah, full time, kind of behind the scenes in the industry now.
Did you even know like when you were fishing? Because I know I've learned over the years a lot of kind of how certain things work behind the scenes, and I'm still totally clueless on a lot of the stuff, as you well know. But is it kind of what you expected, or is it kind of you learning a lot as you go still?
Nah, man, just fortunate enough to be under the learning tree with some people who are willing to tell you what's going on and how it's supposed to be done, and have had a vast amount of success, with their formula, and are, I think, most importantly, willing to adapt.
Mm-hmm.
You and I have talked about this at length. There's kind of different segments of the fishing industry. There's guys that have been in it on the industry side for so long, and sometimes it often seems to me like the fishing industry is 2 to 3 years behind other industries all the time.
In what aspects?
I mean, whether it was YouTube or whether it was podcasts or whether it was social media, or I mean, it just always seemed like you would see something happening in a different walk of life, a different sport or whatever, and it would be like, that'd be cool fishing wise. And you pitch it to somebody at ICAST or a classic meeting or whatever, and they're, no, that's nothing that would work in the fishing industry. And then 2 years later, it would happen, right?
Do you think that's part of the reason? Oh, well, aside from all of the record-setting tournament wins and cups and anglers of the year. But do you think that's part of the reason why Scott is so big now? Because Scott Martin, I'm talking about, because he's had the foresight to stay on the kind of cutting edge of the trends and what's going on. So he's already the number one guy in it by the time everyone else in the fishing industry comes around.
Without question. I mean, I think there were people that did what Scott was doing to a certain degree before he did it, but I would argue that he's kind of the blueprint for exactly how you do that, right? Was able to, because he had the Scott Martin challenge. So he was able to understand, like, hey, I've got this TV platform, but if I take that and move it over to YouTube, which is becoming a really big thing, and I get in this thing early, then I'm kind of going to be in the catbird seat with content, deliverable content, up-to-date, quick delivery methods. It's definitely, I feel like, a part of where he's placed himself now. Of course, you can never take out that factor of performance, right? If the guy's not, a great angler in who he is and not able to, have the wins and the accolades, then who wants to watch that, right? Mm-hmm. So there's that also. But yeah, for sure, man. I mean, I don't think anyone can really argue that Scott Martin's not the total package as far as what companies are looking for in today's climate within the fishing industry.
You mentioned that, and that's a great point as far as where the marketability and what they can offer and how willing they are to work as opposed to their ability to catch fish. And it's a really kind of unique dynamic in the fishing industry as far as that's concerned. So I want to take our first break of the show. We're talking with industry insider Dave Rush. I don't like that. I'm not a huge fan of that term. Industry veteran, behind the scenes fishing guy.
It doesn't seem like I'm a veteran.
You've been around for a long time, but we're talking with Dave Rush. It is BTL, and we'll be back after these messages.
Bigger and better. The Lowrance Ultimate Fishing System upgrade now offers more. A new $200 rebate on active target live sonar and bigger savings with up to $1,200 cash back. Pick fish finding tools to fit the way you fish. From high-performance sonar and ultra-quiet ghost trolling motor to navigation and networking tools that bring it all together. Find more, see more, catch more.
The new Puma STS has been redesigned from the ground up. With the angler, design, function, and performance in mind, nothing on this new offering was compromised, and the only thing carried over from the previous version is the name. Based on the Soft Touch series hull that started with the flagship Jaguar, this new model is nimble and performs incredibly well at all speeds with either a 250 or 300 horsepower engine. Featuring a new 96-inch wide-body footprint, this hull measures out at 20 foot 7 inches in length. Industry-leading design coupled with tournament-winning performance. The Puma STS from Basscat. Feel the rush.
I've made my living on the water for over 20 years.
For 14 years.
For over 23 years.
I've worn a bunch of different clothing brands over the years.
Some companies big.
And some companies small.
All of them said they were making clothing for us.
But none of them knew us.
None of them were us. Except for one.
Except for one.
Except one.
AFCO.
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 Fishing isn't part of us. It is us.
The KVD 100 jerkbait. 15 different colors. A perfect combination of roll, wiggle, and flash. Increased castability. 3D eyes. Premium black nickel hooks. KVD. Tie one on. Striking lures.
Are you looking to install your own fishing electronics? Well, the Bass Tank is here to help you. The solution is the Bass Tank Power Harness. It takes the guesswork out of installation. No more voltage issues or interference. Designed by an engineer so that you can get professional results right there in your own garage. Installation done right with the help of the Bass Tank Power Harness. You can feel confident knowing that your installation was done right. The Bass Tank Power Harness. Give us a call or order yours today at thebasstank.com.
The new Android series is the peak of the Denali lineup and offers the ultimate Denali experience. The Android series features 36-ton multi-directional graphite combined with interlock blank technology for added strength. Each rod is outfitted with royal titanium guides that will not fail. The blank is fitted into an easy-touch, soft-feel EVA foam grip with exposed blank reel seat. This all allows the Android to transmit every movement of your bait and even the most subtle bites. The Android series is the finest rod Denali has ever made and offers an angler the ultimate fishing experience with a limited lifetime warranty. See the full lineup of Android rods at denalirods.com.
Welcome back to BTL, talking with South Carolina's Dave Rush. Probably one of my best friends in the bass fishing industry. And I think there's a lot of guys around who know that we kind of got our start around the same time and, you know, worked with Mark together and all that. But, man, I sit around sometimes like, man, it's been a while since back in the day there, like 2010, 12. But it's cool that we're still around. So before the break, Dave kind of touched on the fact I'd asked a question a little bit about Scott Martin being able to kind of capitalize on some of I guess societal trends, some of the popular pop culture and trends, and really taking advantage of that. I always think it was amazing that he had a blueprint, because that's what Roland did with TV and magazines and marketing and shows and all that, and he's just taking it in today's medium and kind of applying that.
Best, right?
Yeah, and it was awesome to see Roland still around at the Bassmaster Classic, walking around, signing autographs, watching Scott weigh in on the Classic stage, kind of following that kind of unfinished family business that Scott's talked about on the YouTube. But you brought up an interesting point that I wanted to get your take on, Dave, was you mentioned, there's also the on-the-water performance, and that's obviously the case with Scott. He's all-time FLW wins, tour wins. He's got the cup under his belt. He's got the Angler of the Year titles. He's got the millions of dollars in earnings that really highlights his talent. You're in the industry working with companies that sponsor. What is that ratio of easy to work with, marketability, knows how to promote the products versus can just flat out catch them? Because in the fishing industry, it seems like that's a unique. I mean, let's be honest here. You've got Gerald Swindle, who, he's got 2 Angler of the Year under his belt, incredibly consistent, tons of classics, but like one tour level win. Look at another guy like Bill Lowen. Dollar Bill Lowen, he had over $1 million in earnings. Lots of great sponsors, lots of great companies. Just got his first tour win. You look at a guy like Harold Allen, who's in the Bass Fishing Hall of Fame, who only had a couple wins under his belt. Like, some guys seem to be able to crack out wins. Other guys, they're fewer and far between, but they both seem to add tremendous value both on and off the water for their companies they represent.
Yeah, well, I'm sure it's different for every company. I can't speak for what each company would do and what they're looking for. I mean, all of them would love to have the total package, right?
Yeah.
Like a guy who performs, has great social media.
There's like 6 of those guys.
So on and so forth. Correct.
And they're getting paid.
Yeah, and they are. They're making, we talk about that a lot, about guys that are actually making money off the water by not fishing. And it's a super important thing. But I think you are starting to get to a point where the new guys, the young guys who are coming in, I really feel like it's expected of them to check all these boxes. They need a good social media presence. They prefer if they have YouTube. And I mean, when I say social media, I'm talking all the platforms, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, they want a TikTok, they want a Instagram, they want a Facebook, they want whatever's going to be next in 6 months. All of that stuff matters, but at the end of the day, if you don't catch them, does that really matter? Because you are not going to be on a professional level tour for that long.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, they still have to perform, right?
Hey, I don't get the TikTok thing. Like, how important is TikTok? I've been on TikTok like twice in my life. No accounts, nothing. I see everyone's like, oh, TikTok's a deal. I'm getting 10,000 impressions every time I've ever looked at it. I'm like, yeah, no, not for me.
Yeah, I mean, that's a deal, right? It's TikTok. I mean, I think most people feel like, hey, I can't relate to TikTok because it seems like, it's a young people's platform, young people's app, and how do you utilize it to sell product? On the flip side, people probably thought the same thing about Facebook. People probably thought the same thing about Instagram.
Yeah.
Give you a prime example. I mean, we're at the Bassmaster Classic in Greenville. We go to a Mexican restaurant with several of the people that we're working with. One is the Beat Down Outdoors crew. They make, electronics mounts. I'm sure you're familiar with what they do. One of the guys, there's one table with a few of the Beat Down guys, couple of our guys there. They have like a burrito challenge type thing there, where you order this giant burrito, and if you can eat this burrito in 30 minutes, you get a t-shirt and you don't have to pay for the burrito.
Sounds like a disaster.
Yeah, kind of total disaster, especially when you have to work the classic expo.
Oh, yeah. No, thanks. Right? I'm out.
Yeah. So they film this. One of the guys from Beatdown films it, whatever. He doesn't have, I'm kind of spitballing here, but I'm thinking he's got a decent amount of followers on TikTok. He does,
but he's not like a TikTok juggernaut.
Not a TikTok juggernaut, right? He's got probably over, I don't know at the time if he had over 10,000 followers. Now he does, right? So this burrito video, we've been following this. This has been a topic of conversation for the last, since the classic, right? Burrito video is now over 5 million views.
Did he eat the whole thing?
It wasn't even the eating part. It was just them bringing out this giant burrito, the look on the people's faces at the table, and a little bit of music behind it. It's probably a 30-second clip for 5 million, right? Like, how do you, if you are somebody who works in the fishing industry, how do you take that and say, well, this burrito video got 5 million views. I know exactly how to recreate something like that for fishing that's going to sell product and promote my brand, right?
Yeah.
It's to me, it's this insane when you start looking on there and you see what's getting the views on TikTok. So to me, man, TikTok's kind of an enigma. I'm not.
Is the fishing stuff getting the views?
The fishing stuff is getting the views, yeah, for sure. I mean, there's a lot of stuff on there like Sunline did a bunch of those knot animations, like how to tie certain knots, and they did it in an animated form, which was really cool because most of us, hey, if we want to learn how to tie a knot, we go to YouTube and we are listening to some guy in his garage tying a knot with colored rope. So they decided that, hey, we're going to do animations. There's
I see it.
Yeah, whole knot library on the Sunline website. So that actually started getting knocked off. As far as, they just, someone would take it.
Not in the fishing industry.
Oh, no, of course not, right? Someone take it, post it, crop out the Sunline logo, whatever. I mean, that's getting millions of views. Stuff like, people catching fish out of drainage pipes and stuff like that. That's always.
I'm talking about like the tournament guys.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not on TikTok. To be honest with you, a little bit here and there. I mean, I'm still exploring it, but I mean, it's definitely something that the brands are striving to have a bigger presence on.
I know. I was scrolling through. Right? What was I scrolling through? Facebook or maybe Instagram? No, it wasn't TikTok, but Clark Ream has been on this quest to try to optimize his social media. That he's always he's got, I think, his Elite Angler Academy and some he's got a bunch of stuff going on, guiding and stuff. But he's like, hey, I need to optimize this, and he's just struggling. And I think he posted some stats somewhere, and he's like, hey, I got posted the same thing across all platforms, and he's like, I got over 10,000 views, views on TikTok.
Yep.
And he's like 300 on one of the other platforms, 75 on the other. And he's like, he's befuddled, just like kind of I am. And I think a lot of the people are when it comes to, and then, I mean, does it really matter? I mean, are there Are there guys who get sponsorship just because they get a lot of views and it has nothing to do with whether they catch fish or not?
Yeah, I would say yes.
Yeah.
I think,
and that's not a bad thing because you're
not a
a
bad thing.
for-profit company that's trying to get your product out to the public, and the more eyeballs, the more chance you are that you have brand awareness. You have people that go directly to the site and buy it. You have people that, the next time you're there, you're like, oh, I remember I saw that. I'll try that. So, and they all add value. That's the thing.
Sure. And I think, when this really first started jumping off, the argument or the discussion with companies was always, hey, do likes and shares create sales, right? If you're a company selling something, is that something that you can actually track, or are you looking at it as whether it creates a direct sale or not, it's enhancing my brand awareness? So you kind of have those two things, right? Like,
yep.
If there's a video of you, with a certain bait, or catching the fish on something, does that mean that the person who watched that is going to go directly and buy that bait? Nah, maybe not. But if you talk about it, it's kind of, maybe you talk about a certain brand, then that helps the brand awareness. So, but kind of to summarize that though, I mean, it's not going away. It's something that anybody who is, I mean, you see it all the time. I mean, you see guys who are veterans turning around now and trying to up their social media presence, and have been doing it for several years, right?
Let's put a bow on this. I want to ask you one question. In 2022, can you be a BPT or an Elite Series angler without a sponsored angler, have title sponsors, get paid by companies, without having any presence on social media? No Facebook, no Instagram, no Twitter, nothing. Is that even possible?
Well, I think there's several who have very inactive social media accounts who are professional anglers.
You're coming in right now. You've made the Bassmaster Elite Series or the BPT. You have a sterling record. You're looking at sponsorship. Are you going to have a tough time getting it if you say, man, Nad, I got a flip phone. I don't really do the social. I don't do the social media at all. Not on YouTube, not on any social media platform. But hey, I'll catch them and I'll be on Bass Live or MLF Now. I'll be in the magazines. I'll be, on podcasts and stuff. But no foundation of my own, and I'm not planning on starting it. Is that a tough road to hoe in 2022?
I think if you want sponsors, it's a tough road to hoe. I mean,
well, yeah, that was my question. Can you get? I mean, do you think there are companies that you could even get a sponsorship like that? Because you have to remember, when we started this thing, it was like, okay, can you make me a Facebook page? That was like a big deal. The pro anglers had Facebook pages.
Big deal, yeah. Can you make me a YouTube channel?
That was when we start. Like that was we were covering this when maybe a quarter of the anglers had a Facebook page.
That's true. True statement. It would take a special person. It would take somebody who was just, absolutely ridiculously talented, was winning a lot of stuff, and had some, in my opinion, had some sort of other type of backing that really was not interested in sponsorship. And it would kind of, I mean, that would actually be kind of cool, right?
It would be. Imagine how much time they'd get to fish.
Go against the grain and say, nope, don't need this, not doing that, I'm doing it my own way, and be super successful at it.
Yeah, it would be neat.
That would be really cool.
I want to get back to the fishing. I know that you marshaled a couple weeks ago at the Bassmaster Elite Series on Santee. Cooper actually got to spend. Who all did you fish with? Everyone still talks like that. Who all did you marshal for?
Day one, David Williams. Day two, Brandon Lester, and the final day, Drew Benton.
So you got to see the sight fishing beat down, kind of go down on Santee.
I did.
With Drew Benton. David Williams didn't sight fish, did he?
A little bit.
Really?
Yeah, a little bit.
And Lester did too?
Yep, Lester did too. And it was cool, man, because I haven't,
Did you freeze on me? You back?
I'm back.
All right.
So, I haven't, as much as we used to do it, I probably haven't ridden definitely in a competition day since, man, it had to be a classic or something.
You rode with Gerald Swindle in that classic when you had the, what was the stuffed animal that he had on the front?
Dude, do you want me to go get it? Hold on.
All right. Dave is going to get the stuffed animal that Gerald, he like, not Velcroed it, but he zip tied it, I think, to this trolling motor shaft or something like that. And Dave was marshaling for him a media observing in that classic for Gerald, and I don't think the day went very well. And Dave kept it as a souvenir. Did I tell that right? Dave? Did he have it zip tied to his trolling motor?
No. So
where was it?
The Red River Classic Chris Lane won. What year was that?
2012.
2012. I rode with Swindle. I want to say day. Man, it might have been. I think it was day 2. Day 2. 3-day event, classic, obviously. Didn't have a great day 1, and he was, Swindle way ahead of the curve. You see Wheeler and Connell and those guys with the bear in the boat.
I have not ever dove into that. Do you know the story of the bear? Because I do not.
I don't know the story of the bear, but I do know that Swindle was doing the stuffed animal thing 10 years ago. So,
you seriously don't know the story of the bear with those guys? Because I was hoping you did, because I've always meant to ask someone about that. They've got a giant teddy bear that used to show up on their social media stuff all the time. And then wasn't there also a deal with Flat Brandon? Like a picture of Brandon Polinick that like traveled around the.
Flat Brandon was around, yeah. So, but anyway, you should get one of those guys on to just totally tell the bear story and nothing else. I would be interested in that. So, Swindle has a pink polka dot giraffe type stuffed animal attached to his windshield somehow. I want to say that it was. Swindle's got granddaughters, right? Something like that.
I don't know.
I'm thinking maybe like one of his nieces, granddaughters.
A younger relative.
A younger relative provided Swindle with this stuffed animal for good luck. And of course it made the rounds. Alan McGuckin did some stories about it. It was kind of a deal. So as the day goes on, Swindle is not having a great day. And he begins to start taking out and make frustrations on the stuffed animal, let's say. It starts making threats to the stuffed animal that the next time he loses a fish, makes the wrong decision or whatnot, and he's going to start cutting appendages off of the stuffed animal unless it starts giving him some good luck.
Good Lord. Okay.
So.
And you're just are you saying anything, or is he just? You're just like.
No, we're having a good time. We're discussing. He's not. If you know Gerald, you ever been around the guy.
I've also been with Gerald when we were fishing when he was against Wesley Strader when we did the one-on-one stuff, and there was like half an hour left, and it's just a what. I'm like, what do you think? He's like, I think I'm getting my butt kicked, and I wish you'd stop asking me about it. And I was like, man, like there's the competitor in him. Not in a bad way, not in a rude way, just like it's one guy and he really didn't want to lose to it, and I could feel the intensity.
Well, same thing when we were doing the one-on-one with him and Jordan Lee at Gunnersville.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to get you off track.
Point being, Swindle, makes good on his threat, starts cutting appendages off of this poor pink polka dot stuffed giraffe. And I was like, at the end of the day, I'm like, man, that would be a cool souvenir. So here it is. You can see it.
Yeah. You have to go the opposite way. It's like backing up a trailer. Pull it back a little. What is that? Is that a giraffe?
It's a giraffe.
A giraffe foot.
The Swindle stuffed giraffe foot from the 2012 Bassmaster Classic on the Red River.
Where did you have that located?
Oh, it's in a place of prominence. It's on a shelf next to some DJ awards and other memorabilia. I thought about it. I was actually talking to somebody about this not too long ago, and it's like you can't have him signed the giraffe foot. So I was thinking maybe at some point, maybe get a picture of he and I with the giraffe foot, and maybe get him to sign the picture or something, kind of put it in a shadow box or something. It's pretty cool. I like it.
That's very interesting. We lose you again, Dave? You were there for... There we go.
So, yeah, that's the story with the giraffe.
Interesting.
So, but he did catch him that day.
Yeah.
I remember it was the first time I ever he had some of the first Zoom Magnum finesse work. Remember when that came out?
Yeah, that was right around that time. Was he like, hey, look at these?
Yeah, and he had it in it was a colored. I don't even know if they may have brought it back, but at the time they quit making it. It was called sour grape. I remember I used to use the color, and yeah, we had a good time, man. Going back in all those backwaters, and but the giraffe. I wish I knew what happened to the rest of the giraffe.
I'm sure it was strewn around the boat. What was it like? Just Drew Benton really good at looking at fish and catching them?
Man, really good. I mean, you and
I haven't talked to you about this yet. I knew you fished with them, but we haven't. I've been so busy trying to get everything ready.
Yeah, you and I have been in the boat with some of the best sight fishermen to ever do it. The Dean Rojas's, the Kelly Jordans. We've been literally 15 feet away from watching Shaw Grigsby do his thing. To me, what I was so impressed about with Drew, which is I try to tell people this all the time when they talk about sight fishermen. To me, what separates those guys is being able to see the fish. And when I say see the fish, I'm not talking about looking at the fish, how it's reacting on the bed, watching it inhale your bait. It's being able to see them to begin with, finding those deeper beds just based on a little bit of movement or something, stuff that most people are never going to see.
Mm-hmm.
He was really, really good at that.
So you're saying he's not catching the fish where you go, there's a bed, look at the size of that one on it. He was catching fish that he's going, ooh, that's a good one. And you're standing on the back deck out of his way going, I don't see anything.
Yeah, I don't see anything. Plus, the wind's probably blowing 20 to 25 that day.
Oh, it was in the wind, and it just didn't phase him at all.
No, it didn't phase him at all. Most people be like, nope, can't sight fish today. Not the case. I mean, that's something that guys, if you're looking for fishing tips, that's something to keep in mind. These guys are not having to look at fish in super clear water conditions to be able to see everything that's going on. I mean, he's seeing, a slight shadow of a tail every few minutes and having the confidence to back off of that fish and know that there's a fish there. I'll give you a quick story. The first morning or first stop of the day, I mean, it's blowing. If you've ever been on Santee Cooper, it can get really rough.
I have not.
Well,
you drove me past it once. We went to a tackle store like on the banks of Santee.
Yeah. Okay. So he's like, hey, I'm going to start on this fish. Then keep in mind they canceled Saturday, so He hadn't seen this fish since Friday. So he's like, I'm going to stop on this fish, but it's going to be in the meat of the wind, and I don't know if it's going to work out, but we're going to try it anyway. So we run over to this spot. It's directly in the wind. He's got what he thinks is 2 bedding fish on this small little cypress tree. And I mean, there's probably, I'm not going to say, I mean, it's white capping into the cypress tree. I mean, it's, not good conditions. And he pulls down, makes a couple casts, decides, not a heavy enough weight. I can't make an accurate cast. Sits down, reties, throws over there. I mean, it's like 15, 20 minutes. Most people probably would have been like, no way. He's like, I know the fish are there. He's like, there's no reason they would have left. I just know they're there. Probably next cast or two catches a 6, 5.5 or 6.
Wow.
So you'd think that'd be good enough, right? Nope. Keeps casting, keeps casting, keeps
Blind
casting.
casting. He just
Blind
knows
casting.
where the bed is.
Yep, blind casting to a bed in the wind. Never sees it, and literally says, "Man, I know that other fish is there. I just feel it. Like I just know the fish is there." And he says, "Last cast." So I'm thinking like, yeah, whatever. You know, you caught up 6. That's cool. Great start. You know, start moving around, get your day going, and catches it on what he said last cast, catches the 5.
So he caught 11 pounds off of it and spent, 45 minutes on it?
Yeah, and didn't even see him. Just
White
based
capping.
off feel. Yeah.
You think
So-
99% of weekend anglers would have been like, I'm not even going to go to that. It's too windy there, and there's no way. It's been 3 days.
Yeah, 100%. And, you know, he was fishing. It wasn't like he had stuff totally to himself. I mean, there were boats would go down the stretch, not catch anything, and he had the confidence just to literally go right behind him. I mean, not 30 minutes later. I'm talking, you know, as soon as the guy went down the stretch, they'd kind of, you know, pass like ships in the night, go right down the same stretch and find another 5 or 6 pounder that guy didn't see.
I did online find a 12-inch plush tall named Gerald the Giraffe, and I feel like if you want to get a photo signed or something to do that in a shadow box, I think if you presented Gerald with Gerald the Giraffe, give him a messed up giraffe, that he might acquiesce to your request a little easier.
I'm sure he would remember that story.
Yeah, he probably would. He's got a really sharp memory. That's nuts, though.
So yeah, Benton ended up catching, I think it was like 28-13. I think he started, when we went out that morning, he was like in 19th and went all the way up to like 5th, I believe, to make that final day.
Wow. Along those same lines, you have been in the Carolina tournament scene for a long time. We haven't really talked about this recently, but you look at the number of anglers that are coming out of both North and South Carolina, specifically South Carolina too, is absolutely insane. Like some really dominant anglers that are going right now. You know, Casey Ashley, Brian Thrift, Brian New, Patrick Walters. I mean, the list goes on and on. I could continue to name like 9 or 10 of these guys. But what do you think it is about the Carolinas that is producing such top-level tournament talent on the national scene?
If you want to, you can basically practice on every type of body of water you would see fishing throughout the country on a national schedule. So you've got, here where I live, we've got, you know, Tidal River, Cooper River, where all the guys were running, you know, from Winyah Bay tournament over here. So you can learn to fish tidal fisheries with grass, right? Can't do that in the middle of the country. You know, you move up a little bit, you got a lowland reservoir like Santee Cooper, cypress trees, stumps, shallow grass, big fish. Move up a little further in the state, you've got Lake Murray, kind of a midland type reservoir. Herring fish, docks, you know, river, different stuff you want to do there. Keep on moving up. You've got Clarks Hill, Lake Russell, Lake Hartwell, total herring-based fisheries, you know, spotted bass, big largemouth, whatever you want to do there. And if you want to go to the extreme upper reaches of the state, you got your Lake Kiowis, Lake Jocassee, Lake Secession, which are over 100 foot deep in places, super clear, drop shot, finesse stuff, live scoping, big trout swim baits, you know, if you want to do that stuff. So it's just a great testing ground. I mean, it's a great place to learn how to fish. And you can basically be from one end of the state to the other in 4 hours. So those guys have it all around here if they want to utilize it.
I did a horrible job of setting that up. I have the rosters pulled up for both the BPT and the Elite Series. I'm running through this with you because it's absolutely insane. I know I did that documentary a couple years ago about the 7 champions that lived around Lake Gunnersville. But I think if I was to name a hotbed right now of professional bass fishing, it would be the Carolinas. And that takes it over East Texas and Florida and out west. And it would rival Tennessee with the number of guys that have moved to that East Tennessee. But you also have to remember in that part of Tennessee, it's not that far from the Carolinas. They're fishing a lot of the same fishes. They're just driving it out.
Yeah, and we didn't even get to North Carolina. I mean, you think about what you got there.
Yeah.
You got your Normans, your Jordan Lake.
That's what I'm saying. It's nuts. But listen to this. You hear him. You got Casey Ashley, Anthony Gagliardi, Britt Myers, Marty Robinson, Brian Thrift, and I know I'm missing some over there just because the text is a lot smaller. But over on the Elite Series side, Jason
Andy Montgomery.
Yeah, Andy Montgomery, Jason Williamson, David Williams, Jake Whitaker, Patrick Walters, Brian New, Fritz, he's in North Carolina, Brandon Cobb, Hank Cherry, Brandon Card, Matt Airy. It's nuts. And they all catch them too. Like they're
Yeah, it's I hadn't really thought about that in a while, but yeah, I think it's got to be about the versatility of the playing field. Now North Carolina is a little different, but you don't have the title. Well, you do have the title stuff in North Carolina too. Actually, once you get towards the coast, so
and a lot more play. But
have everything.
But then look at also the companies that have come out of there and based out of there. Rad Lures.
Yeah.
Z-Man.
The Chatterbait documentary.
Z-Man isn't Pure Fishing out there?
Yep, Pure Fishing's in Columbia.
In Columbia.
Yeah, if you look at South Carolina is definitely a hotbed of the fishing industry right now. You pointed out from an angler perspective, but I think more so even just like industry company perspective. I mean,
Buckeye
Shimano,
Lures is Buckeye Lures out of there?
Buckeye Lures is Georgia.
Okay, because that North Georgia, yeah, it's that.
Well, you think it was like Clarksville, Hartwell, that Savannah River Channel Lake, one side South Carolina, one side Georgia. So you get a lot of bleed over from that Georgia element as well.
Mm-hmm. And then also the tournaments that are being held out there, from the past the Forest Wood Cups to the BPT events. What we saw in North Carolina with the Jordan and the Harris and the those fish, and then you've got 4 classics on Hartwell, and
it had a cup here on Lake Wiley,
Bass Nation Championships, Elite Series on Santee Cooper. It's absolutely phenomenal what's going on in the Carolinas and professional bass fishing right now.
And, kick in that Green Pond facility at Lake Hartwell, probably the nicest facility in the country.
I didn't get out there this year. Did they add I heard they added like I didn't go to any of the launches, like an amphitheater and like literally a place to watch launches.
Yep, they did that, and they also have, they only had kind of that dock you launch from, where you launched your boat. They kind of had the dock, like a T dock.
Yeah,
they've got another huge dock now, kind of on the lake side.
I saw that.
That's where all those guys were tied up. So yeah, man. I mean, you got everything you need in the Carolinas to fish. For sure.
That's nuts. All right. Well, we're going to take our final break of the show with Dave Rush. And when we come back, I want to get into a little something that's very near and dear to my heart. Probably the reason why I have been able to fish the Bassmaster Elite Series over the last couple of years. And that is the Best on Tour industry kind of insider newsletter that's been my title sponsor and been on the side of the Bass Cat for the last 2 years. Dave is a integral part kind of working on that. And I want to get his thoughts on what it's like putting that together in part and kind of being in charge of that on a weekly basis. So this is Bass Talk Live. We'll be back.
Elite Series Pro Daryl Gleason here. My Pro Guide batteries keep me going on those long tournament days and long practice days. Always plenty of juice, never fail. The best part about Pro Guide batteries, it's the people behind the company. They have over 40 years experience in the battery business, keeping all of us fishermen out on the water longer, catching more fish. Check them out at ProGuideBatteries.com.
What's up, Bass Talk Live fans? Brandon Polnick here. And ever since I won a couple Bassmaster Elite Series events on X-Zone Lures, I've been getting a bunch of questions of what makes them so special and different. And really, the truth is, it's in the details. The little details, things like no cheap fillers in their plastic. That gives you more lifelike action, more realistic and vibrant colors. But don't just take my word for it. Go to www.xzonelures.com and check them out for yourself.
Combining one of the most popular hook styles with Gamakatsu's beefier Superline offering, the Gamakatsu Superline Offset Round Bend delivers the strength necessary to target big fish in heavy cover. Well suited for braided line and heavier fluorocarbon, the Gamakatsu Superline Offset Round Bend is built using stronger Superline wire that allows anglers to easily fish a finesse worm around heavy cover. The round bend offers a larger bite area, perfect for any worm presentation, while increasing your hookup ratios. The newly enhanced Z-bend holds your plastics on the hook longer, reducing the number of pull-offs and reducing damage to plastics. Available in 2/0, 3/0, 4/0, and 5/0, this is the most durable worm hook, designed for heavier lines that hold your bait on longer.
Preparation is key to success. And that preparation starts well before you ever hit the water. You're only as strong as your connection to the fish, and your line is that critical connection. Confidence in your line every minute of every day on the water is a necessity, and failure, it's not an option. Sunline makes the fluorocarbon, nylon, and braided lines to give you the strength to guarantee your confidence.
Vibrating jigs are a great choice for any time of year, and the Kamikaze Swim-On is a perfect match for any vibrating jig. Two sizes and the unique tail design gives it a bait fish profile and a great swimming action for realism. There are 17 colors. See them all at bigbitebaits.com. The Spro Little John crankbait has been around for almost 15 years, and it is one of my go-to crankbaits whenever I need a fish in the boat, so you can never have enough new colors. That's why Spro's coming out with a handful of new colors, including Pearl Shad, which has this bleached out white look, but it's got this pearlescent, really, really pretty. We've got Copper Shad, which looks amazing in the water. It's got that purple flake on the back, really, really pops in the water. And then if you want some real pop, we've got Sparkle Shad, nothing but sparkles all over this thing. And then last but not least, we've got the matte Sexy Shad, just a really different looking color for a crankbait. So you want to give them a little different look, that matte Sexy Shad is definitely the one to go with. All these colors are available in the original Little John and the MD.
Welcome back to Bass Talk Live, wrapping things up with Dave Rush. We'll talk a little business in the last segment. I want to talk about the Best on Tour thing, because that's something that, when did it start?
Man, so, I don't know,
3 years ago?
Today was my 160th issue, actually.
All right. If you don't know what we're talking about, it's my title sponsor on the Bassmaster Opens, and I've always been a stats nerd. Like, that's back for the days when we were traveling. I would always sit there and print stuff out and add it up and be like, well, look how consistent this guy is. Which, for some reason in fishing, like, you see all the stats, but it's never taken off like in baseball, right? Like with a Tim Kirchin, who can come in and say, this is how statistically significant this is over history. And that's why when this guy pitches, he's the greatest who has ever done it because of these 9 stats that we can compare against 100 other years of pitching. And you go, okay, well, when he's pitching, I'm going to watch him because, well, in fishing, we've got a bunch of guys. He's really good. He's the best that's out. There's all this stuff where that's dominating the tournament scene. But it's hard. There's no stats to like back it up other than the older stuff that's in like Ken Duke's locked vault 70 feet under Fort Knox.
I was just about to say Ken Duke's Holy Grail back.
Yeah, but that's always like
that one.
Really kind of like annoyed me, and that was kind of my jam when I first got on BTL, was to come on and tell Mark, wow, look at this guy, he's 98% on the cuts, and his average weight is 14.6, and the field is 11, so look, he's averaging 3 pounds more, and then you're like, oh, okay, he's really good. It puts it into perspective, right? And then when I first saw the Best on Tour before, I was like, dude, that's pretty much what this newsletter does, and then tosses in tips and tactics, stuff that's going on in the industry, little tackle places that you haven't heard of that you can have, new baits that just came out that you can click on the links at, and then you kind of got involved with that, and that's kind of one of your babies now too. Kind of starting the last 100
160
or so.
issues. So yeah, I think it's probably a little over 2 years ago was when we started it. And a lot of that did come, was born from a lot of the types of conversations that you and I would have kind of off the record, or Mark and I would have, or myself and other people within the industry. And it was kind of like, man, like, would the general public be interested in some of these conversations we have? Because you kind of keep that stuff to your small circle of people who work within the fishing industry or people who are really close to it. And you never kind of think about that other people might be interested in it. That was part of the reason that Best on Tour was born. Another part, frankly, was the end of the kind of, I'm not going to say the death, but the lack of importance that had been being placed on the independent fishing media sites. When you and I first started, there was a lot of them.
Mm-hmm.
If you wanted to get a press release out or announce something or talk about, get one of your guys to do a story about a certain bait, a certain technique, some sort of equipment, you kind of call a guy and say, hey, I can make so-and-so available for you, and would you be willing to do a story on this new bait we're launching, or whatever the case? And that stuff just doesn't exist anymore. I mean, you see some press releases here and there. You see
we don't put any on Bass Zone anymore.
Media. No, so it was kind of
years.
Also developed to kind of have a platform to be able to help anglers and companies get the word out about their products. To me, that was something that was lacking. It had kind of gone by the wayside. So that was another reason that I thought it was important.
That's what it looks like, in
it.
case you're wondering. That's the logo. You see me wear that logo a lot all the time. And it's bestontour.net, which I find ironic since it's fishing.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you literally sign up, it goes straight to your email. And sometimes it will go to your spam box. That's the problem. Even on me, I was like, man, I haven't seen my Best on Tour in a couple weeks, and then I go in and it gets flagged.
Yeah, once you start clicking on it and flag it non-spam, it should solve that problem.
Why do you do it in an email instead of just put it on a website?
So if you think about it, we had a big discussion earlier in the show about social media. No matter what anybody tells you, social media, you're not in control of your social media. You're in control of what you post, but you're not in control of how many people see it, right? There's these things called algorithms, and based on what Facebook or Instagram or TikTok or whoever wants to do is going to control how many of your followers get to see that content. Really kind of the last frontier, in my opinion, of direct to consumer, making sure somebody can get something is email. You own that, right? Like if I want to send you something on your email, like I said, maybe something may go to spam, but if you mark it as not a spam, you're going to receive that every week. So that was another reason. Being able to communicate directly with the subscribers and not have to rely on another platform, because let's say you build this giant YouTube following, this giant YouTube channel, and for whatever reason in 6 months YouTube decides to yank the plug. Like, well, you spent all this time, effort, money, resources, blood, sweat, and tears to build something up on somebody else's platform that at the end of the day you don't control.
Right.
So I mean, that's it. We've really thought about archiving the stuff on the website and things.
You
like
have
that.
some stuff on under the blog and some of the
some
newsletters.
Stuff. There's
and
like
stuff.
we've got some blogs, we've got some ultimate guides that we feel like are super helpful, like Ultimate Guide to Getting Sponsorships, things like that. This stuff that would be helpful to people. I want it to obviously be entertaining and interesting content, but also I want to be able to take what I've learned and what the people involved with it have learned and kind of give back, right?
How long has this one been up? The best weather apps for fishing? I need this.
Yeah, that's been up a little while, man. So yeah,
it
just kind of breaks down
stuff, I guess.
Yeah, it breaks down the various weather apps, and that's based on talking to guys, seeing which weather apps they're using on their phones, which
Mhm.
ones are the most reliable. But yeah, that's Best on Tour, man. It's it's a labor of love. One issue per week on the Thursday, and if you don't open it, you get a resend. But otherwise, I'm not going to bombard everybody and send you an email every day. People don't want that. So, but it's been really successful.
This was the one that was depressing. So like there I am. That's me. That's actually me. Do you want to know? So funny story about this photo, Dave. This photo was taken this was at Lake Milford in Kansas. There are 6 bass in Lake Milford in Kansas. And
you caught one of them.
I caught one of them. And it makes Central Illinois look like a Lake Falcon. Anyway, so right before we took off on this day, when this photo was taken, I'm power pole down waiting. It's like super cold, like frost. Rod box is closed because it's Kansas and just has no soul. And a guy had the live well lids open. A guy goes, "Hey man, there's a mouse on your back deck." And I said, "Oh yeah, good one. Nice joke, buddy." And he's like, "No, I'm serious. There's a real live mouse on your back deck." And I look back and I've got my live well lids open, right? I'm like, "Okay, no, there's not." And he's like, "Close your live well lid." That's how I said it. And I did. And there was like the biggest mouse I've ever seen in my life, literally like up on his back paws going, looking at me. And I was like, because it was just not what I expected to see. And I jump up on the front deck, and I don't know how it got in the boat, when it was. I mean, I don't know how it happened, but there was a live mouse on my back deck. I'm on the water, power pulled down. So I get a rod, and now, there's kind of a commotion. "Oh, there's a mouse on his deck, blah, blah, blah." So I get a rod, and I poke the mouse with the rod, and it jumps up the rod and starts running up the blank towards my handle. And it gets like halfway, and I do the old marshmallow on fire on the stick thing where I just start waving the rod, and I launch the mouse. This is a true story. I launch the mouse into the water, and then it starts swimming towards other boats, and then everyone's yelling about this dang mouse that was on my back deck. And then 20 seconds later, they took this picture, and then I went out and had one bite in 10 hours.
Did you not think you should be throwing a rat?
Well, the water temp was like 42. But so this is another one. What are the odds of becoming a pro angler? So we talk about the stats. So you go through like professional angler, Bassmaster Opens to Elite Series, and then you compare it like NFL, Major League Baseball, college to pro, swimming, Division I football, all sorts of different stats. So it's good stuff. bestontour.net to sign up for it. I am hardcore plugging it because they've done a lot for me.
Yeah, subscribe for free, and like I said, it comes out every Thursday, so we'd appreciate it if you subscribe.
What else you got, Dave? What are you up to next?
Man, I am actually going to be fishing a team tournament on Santee Cooper on Saturday, so I was feverishly getting some stuff ready. Every once in a while you get to fish when you're in the fishing industry. Not too often, but when you do, you take advantage of it. So, unlucky for us, there's going to be 20 to 30 mile per hour winds with higher gusts.
That'll get canceled, won't it?
Well, Lisa Talmadge would definitely do the right thing and cancel it, but I don't know about our tournament.
I think she's doing a heck of a job so far.
Man, so speaking of that, I've got a piece coming out with
that was
her.
not planned, by the way. I did not know that.
It was not planned, but I thought the same thing. I was like, has that story really been given enough light? So I spent some time with her at the Santee Cooper after the weigh-in, and very interesting story about how she got into it, and that will be in the upcoming issue of Best on Tour. But no, man, she's doing a great job. But that's part of it. I mean, you look at it; it's like that day she had to cancel on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
Selfless, thankless job, right? Being a tournament.
Was there a deal with that, Dave, to where they might? At first, did they just say it was going to be a 3-day tournament, but then they did extend it to Monday? I'd had a couple comments last week when we had Drew Cook on and stuff about that.
Right. Yeah. So from my understanding, it was initially planned that because I was only guaranteed to marshal 2 days. When they canceled Saturday, they had some people that actually couldn't, make it on that Sunday, the rescheduled day. So I got a text from Bass saying, hey, would you like to marshal? And they got that straightened out and was lucky enough to get to ride with Drew Benton and kind of witness what he did, which we talked about earlier. But it was supposed to be Championship Sunday with all 47 fishing. And I think, it's, from my understanding, due to some anglers, being really adamant about, hey, we don't have a back-to-back. It's, we do have that Monday open. Let's try to fish. And then I think Bass had to go back to the Clarendon County people who were, obviously in control of what was going on at the landing and whatnot, and, whether or not they had something else going on. And we're able to work it out, and we're able to have, Championship Monday, and Drew Cook goes wire to wire and wins his first blue trophy.
Very nice. All right. Well, thank you for taking time to jump on BTL, Dave.
Yep. Always fun, man. Always fun.
All right. Have a good one.
You too.
That was Dave Rush. And I do want to point out, so as you know, if you're watching this now on the day that it came out on YouTube or listening to it on iTunes, I'm right now. I'm probably currently it's at the Bassmaster Open on Cherokee in Tennessee. Talking about everything that happened, I do have a Red Crest week planned. That is, well, you're listening to it now, has gone on. Will be a lot of Red Crest coverage. Hopefully we'll get winners, patterns, breakdowns, everything on Grand. But at the time of currently filming this, they're just in the process of making their first cut. So don't really have much to talk about then. And then even if I did, by the time this aired, it would be old news and we would have a winner. So I'm not leaving that out. There will be a lot of post Red Crest coverage, but part of the challenge of taking over BTL in 2022 was providing the 150 to 200 live shows, all the day fours, the coverage, the extra stuff, as well as mixing in 9 Bassmaster Opens all across the country, 6 of those which are 14-hour plus drive out east. So really working on getting the mobile BTL production setup going, but wanted to make sure that I had a rock solid to be able to provide content for you guys on a daily basis, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. 2 things coming out on Monday, actually. The Cole with Dave Mercer, something new that we picked up in started last month, is going really well. A lot of good feedback on that. So that comes out at like 5 a.m. Monday, and then 8:30 Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, regular BTLs, and 8:30 day 4 with Frank Scalish on Thursday. So the reason that I try to keep up with that, and I know there'll be some off days. We had one on travel day on the back from the Classic, and there will be some weeks without shows moving forward, is just the feedback that I get from you guys, the listeners, is so awesome to hear. Hey, I do this helps, what I listen to while I'm delivering packages or teaching or driving or all sorts of cool occupations. So that's the reason on that. I know it is, this week is post Red Crest week, so it's just going to have to be delayed a week. But we'll be back other than that. That's all we got for BTL today. Once again, big thank you to Dave Rush, good dude who he's a good guy to know in the industry, and it's cool we kind of came into it. I think I was like a year or 2 before him, like I said. The legend, Harold Allen, hung it up, and he came on and helped with Bass Zone, and here we are 14 years later. Anyway, that's it. This has been BTL. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow.